Ever heard of a company so powerful it nearly bankrupted an entire nation? A stock so hyped that everyone from servants to scientists, even Isaac Newton, threw their life savings into it. This isn't a story about crypto or a modern tech bubble. This is the tale of the South Sea Bubble, one of the most insane financial manias in history. A full 2 centuries before the Great Depression. Picture this, it's the early 1700s in Great Britain. The country is drowning in debt from years of war. The government is desperate for a solution. Enter the South Sea Company. It sounds exotic, right? Conjures up images of treasure fleets and tropical islands. And that was exactly the point. The company was founded in 1711 with a seemingly brilliant plan. It would take on a huge chunk of Britain's national debt. In exchange, the government would give the company exclusive trading rights to Spanish South America. There was just one tiny problem with this grand plan. Spain still controlled South America, and Britain was still at war with Spain. So, these exclusive trading rights were, to put it mildly, completely worthless. The company was basically built on a foundation of pure fantasy. But in the world of finance, sometimes the story is more powerful than the reality. The South Sea Company wasn't really a trading company. It was a financial engineering machine. Its real goal was to profit from the national debt it had absorbed. The plan was to convince the people who owned government bonds to swap them for shares in the South Sea Company. Why would they do that? Because the company promised them incredible returns. They painted a picture of a future filled with gold, silver, and unimaginable riches flowing from the New World. And here's where the magic, or madness, begins. To make their stock look more attractive, the company's directors started to manipulate its price. They spread incredible rumors about imminent, fantastically profitable trade deals with Spain. They offered easy credit, allowing people to buy shares with just a small down payment. They even loaned money to people specifically to buy more of their own stock, creating an artificial demand that drove the price ever higher. The British public went absolutely wild. The early 18th century was a time of newfound financial speculation. For the first time, ordinary people could buy and sell shares. The South Sea Company became the hottest ticket in town. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. Coffee houses in London, the Wall Street of their day, were buzzing with talk of South Sea stock. It was a national obsession. In January of 1720, a share in the South Sea Company was worth about £128. By February, it was £175. By March, it had shot up to £330. The hype was reaching a fever pitch. People saw their neighbors getting rich overnight and were consumed by a fear of missing out. The company's directors, seeing the public's insatiable appetite, announced a new plan to take on even more of the national debt, which sent the stock price into the stratosphere. By May, it hit £550. By June, it soared to an astonishing £890. It seemed like the stock could only go up. The company itself fueled the fire by issuing more and more shares at these inflated prices, making a fortune. People mortgaged their homes, sold their family estates, and emptied their savings to buy in. We're talking about everyone: barons, merchants, artists, politicians, and their housekeepers. The frenzy was so intense that it spawned a wave of other ridiculous bubble companies. People were investing in companies for making a wheel of perpetual motion, and even one famously advertised as a company for carrying out an undertaking of great advantage, but nobody to know what it is. People literally threw money at a secret. That's how crazy things got. Even Sir Isaac Newton, one of the greatest scientific minds in all of human history, got caught up in it. He invested early, made a tidy profit, and cashed out, wisely saying, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." But then, as the price continued to skyrocket, even he couldn't resist the temptation. He jumped back in at the very top of the market, investing a massive sum. It would prove to be a catastrophic mistake. So, what happens when a bubble is inflated with nothing but hot air and speculation? It pops. By late summer 1720, the first signs of trouble appeared. Insiders, the company directors who knew the whole thing was a sham, quietly began to sell their shares, cashing in their massive ill-gotten gains. At the same time, other European financial markets started to crash, causing a ripple of panic. Investors started to get nervous. They started asking questions. Where were all these profits from South America? When was the trade actually going to start? The confidence that had propelled the stock to absurd heights began to evaporate. A few major players selling off their shares turned into a trickle, and that trickle quickly became a flood. Everyone rushed for the exit at once. People who had borrowed money to buy shares were hit with margin calls they couldn't possibly meet. The price began to plummet. From its peak of over £1,000 in August, the stock crashed to 800, then 600, then 400. By September, it was in a freefall. Panic gripped the nation. The paper fortunes that had been celebrated just weeks before vanished into thin air. By December, the stock was right back where it started, at around £120. The bubble had burst. The fallout was devastating. Thousands of people, from the wealthiest aristocrats to the humblest workers, were utterly ruined. Estates were lost, families were bankrupted, and some, in their despair, took their own lives. Sir Isaac Newton lost a staggering £20,000, the equivalent of millions of dollars today. For the rest of his life, he forbade anyone from even saying the words South Sea in his presence. The public was furious. They wanted someone to blame. An investigation was launched, and what it uncovered was a cesspool of corruption, bribery, and insider trading that went all the way to the top of the British government. Members of Parliament and even the royal court had been bribed with shares to support the company's schemes. The company's directors were arrested. Their estates were confiscated to help compensate the victims. Some were thrown into the Tower of London. The scandal rocked the British establishment to its core. In the end, the government had to step in to prevent a total collapse of the financial system. The Bank of England and the Treasury worked to restructure the South Sea Company, which, believe it or not, continued to exist for another century, operating as a much more modest and legitimate entity managing government debt. The South Sea Bubble became a cautionary tale for generations. It stands as a powerful reminder of the dangers of herd mentality, greed, and speculation. It shows how easily people can be seduced by the promise of easy money and how a compelling story can be far more influential than boring old facts. When we look at the dot-com bubble of the late 90s, the 2008 financial crisis, or the wild swings in cryptocurrency markets today, we're seeing the same human behaviors at play: the hype, the fear of missing out, and the devastating crash when reality finally sets in. The technology changes, the companies have different names, but the psychology of the bubble remains remarkably the same. The story of the South Sea Bubble isn't just a dusty piece of financial history. It's a timeless lesson about human nature and the madness of crowds. It's a warning that's as relevant today as it was 300 years ago. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button. And consider subscribing for more deep dives into the craziest moments in history. Let me know in the comments what other historical events you'd like to see covered. See you in the next one.